So Unit 4 Activity 2, how did natural processes worsen the Fukushima disaster? So for this activity here, you'll start off with the Mines On activity. Just sort of thinking about Lennox Island and PEI and how 50% of that could be underwater in 50 years. So basically here we're looking at the impact of climate change. You're going to start off here by thinking about other issues that might arise due to inequitable impacts of climate change. So again, there could be social, environmental, political, or economic things that create. So you can start your comment off by choosing one of the following sort of sentence starters. And then once you've done that, you can explain an example or a situation of each type of issue that could occur right due to climate change. So again, you're not going to do all of these. You'll choose one, and you'll then give an example of political tension that could be created, or an economic disparity, some social unrest that would occur, or an environmental disaster related to that. You then move into the action section, and here it's talking about direct and indirect things that could happen. So direct things are usually local. So for example, you build a dam upstream, reduces the water levels downstream. So you're able to point your finger at it and say, okay, there's no water down here because they built the dam. So it's quite easy. Indirect, unfortunately, is not quite as easy, right? Because we've got certain countries that use a whole lot of fossil fuels, which means that the amount of CO2 they're producing is much greater. This is then polluting the atmosphere. And of course, this stuff moves all over around the world, being carried through the air, through the water, in the water. And so then everybody gets impacted by it, but it's indirect. You can't really necessarily blame one person because it's not as easy to see as the dam that's built, for example. So in this situation here, we're going to be sort of looking at these types of things. So your task is to choose a country that has a coastline, and you're going to research its contributions to climate change, the effects of sea level rise, or their climate change hazard for your chosen country. Please make sure you check out on those. And then you're going to analyze your chosen country's unique geographic perspective on climate change. So these are things that you want to look up related to your country. Your first piece is that you want to pick, all right, which country it is that you're going to research. And so make sure again it has some shoreline. So make sure that it has a coastline on it. That basically touches water, so that you can do that. Then what you'll do is then using some maps, we got some graphic organizers for you to use, and there's an example one. You're going to basically analyze what's going on using these maps right here in the country that you chose. So these are going to show you how the amount of land above water is going to change over the years with different certain levels of water rising. So it's important to make sure you use these. These will help you then get the information that you're going to need to then complete, in this case, this guided research. So in this situation, you're going to complete another graphic organizer. So there's an interactive map you can use. There's climate change interactive. So all these are different things that you can use, as well as this global interdependence. Right, so looking at what's imported and exported. Because what will happen is that, let's say, for example, your country floods and there's lots of agriculture and those were exports. Now all of a sudden you can't export that. So now you don't have something to sell to the rest of the world globally to then bring in money to your country. And then vice versa, the countries that were relying on what it was you were exporting, they can't buy that anymore. So now they might starve. And so again, that's that sort of global interdependence thing whereby we often buy and sell things from other countries. So once you basically have got this organizer done, make sure you submit your work right here. Then you go back into a discussion here in the UN forum. There's a template for this. So a lot of the work that you've done, you're going to work this in here, and you're going to share your report findings in the discussion with your country name as the title. And then you're to read the posts from all the reporting countries and engage in some conversation with the countries perhaps that you're impacting or impacting you. So that goes into that piece. Then the consolidation piece is thinking now about whether or not the country is a climate criminal, a climate victim, or a climate activist. So a criminal is a country that's way more contributions and negative impacts to the environment and all the different perspectives. A victim is a country that, definitely the impacts of climate change are hurting them dramatically, even though they're not producing a lot of the stuff that goes with it. And an activist is a country that's sort of stepped up and they're now making serious efforts to reduce its impact on climate change. Make sure you pick one that an activist, they have to be doing something. Just setting goals doesn't count, right? You have to actually be achieving your goals and actually making things happen. Because there's a lot of major countries right now, they're setting lots of goals. They have no intention whatsoever of actually meeting them. So it's important to make sure you think about that when you choose your climate activist. So this is the template that you're going to use for your climate criminals, victims, and activists. So make sure you fill this in and thinking appropriate to all the different components in the template.